Hello and welcome to AASPA's Promising Practices podcast series. I'm your host, Alexis Christ, Meetings Coordinator with AASPA. Today we are joined by Jocelyn Cosgrave, Director of Human Resources with Licking Heights Local School District. Welcome, Jocelyn.
Thank you, Alexis.
Our promising podcast topic today is AI chatbot creation. Jocelyn, tell us more about this topic and how it can help your district.
Well, first, Alexis, I have to say I was a little nervous about doing a podcast because when I was 16, I thought I wanted to be a radio DJ. And so we had to go out and do some career exploration activities. And I went to our local radio station in my super small town. And they had me try out my voice on the radio for ads, and it sounded terrible. And I, at that moment, decided, you know what? Maybe being a radio DJ isn't for me. So I appreciate the invite. This should be fun. Don't know how I'll feel about my voice, but I think we can all relate, right? That we all do things out of our comfort zone. So welcome everybody to the podcast today. And I hope that it's helpful to you. So I attended a meeting. It was a professional development by our state organization for HR directors. They were giving us some statistics about actually staff engagement and how just in general engagement and engaging and communicating has changed so much since AI has kind of come to the forefront of all facets of the work we do, but especially in education. And there are some research studies that show that we are engaging with chatbots when we are online or on our phones up to 40% of the time without even knowing it. So things that we're reading on Twitter or things that or X, I'm sorry, or things that we're seeing on Facebook oftentimes are automated. And so we were just talking about how we are all engaging with one another differently, and maybe we're engaging with chatbots and we don't even realize it. But then we also started talking about ways that we could maybe capitalize on this idea of chatbots. So if we can make our own chatbots, like what are some ways that could make our life easier as an HR department? And so that really got my brain thinking about some frequently asked questions that we get in our HR departments. And so I started to explore how to make my own chatbot. I will tell you, and so will my husband, that technology is not my forte. We kind of make fun of each other because he's a very techie person. I am not, except when it comes to work technology, I'm okay. So the thought of me creating a chatbot was super ridiculous. But I decided to have ChatGPT teach me how to make a chatbot in ChatGPT because who better to help me than the very chatbot that would own then my chatbot. So I started asking it questions and I found out that it's extremely, extremely easy to create your own chatbot. And so just kind of wanted to walk everybody through that. So the first thing that I did is I decided that I wanted to make sure that I was solving a problem. And so one of the things I was thinking about is, what are some things that kind of clog up my office? Like the phone calls and the texts and the emails that I get are just really quick answers that, oftentimes we spend time on that it really maybe that person could have found like a resource for that information rather than calling or texting or emailing our HR department. And what could I do to free up my administrative assistance time and taking some of those calls and answering questions? And I do want to say though, before I go any further, nothing can replace human interaction. I don't want anybody to think that creating this chatbot is anything other than a tool that those who need a quick answer can use. This was never meant for people to like not call our office and have a human interaction. That's actually not what we want. But these are tools that we created not just to make our lives easier, but those looking for quick answers and they maybe can't get a hold of us in that moment or we haven't seen their email yet. So the first chatbot that I decided to kind of create was one where people could access information about our benefits plans, about our benefits options. And so what I found out is that you can easily let people just simply type in ChatGPT and ask questions based on a bank of resources that you provide and that you create for them. It's almost like curating information into one spot. And then people can ask the chatbot questions and it will respond based on the information that you've uploaded. So when I go into Chat GPT, I can go into Explore GPT. So if you're in Chat GPT and you want to try this yourself, what you do is you go in and along the left-hand side, there's a thing called GPTs. And if you click on the little box that says Explore, and then up in the top right-hand corner, you can click Create, and it is going to allow you to create your own tool. And so then what I started to do is just explain to the system what I wanted it to do. And so I started out by saying something like, I want my employees to be able to get information about our benefits plans, including, where their provider information is located, or how much the benefits cost, or when is open enrollment period, or how much of something our insurance covers, etc. So I kind of gave it some prompts about that. And then I took our benefits guide that we have that we give out to employees. I took flyers that our insurance providers have given us, and I uploaded those up into the system. And I told the chatbot, I only want you to take information from these documents that I'm uploading. So that way, when our staff members have a question, it's not pulling from the internet anywhere. It is simply pulling from only the documents that I've uploaded. I also gave it the website for our insurance plan, and there's a general page that it's a landing page that it could also pull from. So I essentially trained the system to only pull from those documents. So then what happened is I tested it and tested it and tested it, and I had other people test it just to make sure that the information was truly pulling from just those documents and that the information it was pulling was accurate. So lots of testing. And then we finally sent the link out live and piloted it to 10 or so people. And we would have people ask it questions about our benefits plan. And sure enough, the responses were accurate and they were directly from the documents we provided. So now, people can click on a link and they can just ask a simple question like, hey, how much do family benefits cost? I just found out that my wife is pregnant, and so tell me how much it will cost me to add someone on my insurance. And then it explores the documents that I've given it and is able to answer that question for the staff members. So that is now accessible to our staff members at all times. I also made a second one that is specific to the audience of our district administrators and our supervisors and directors. And it is one where I asked it to be able to answer questions about our negotiated agreements with our bargaining units. So I uploaded our certified negotiated agreement, our classified negotiated agreement, and then I'm in Ohio, so I also asked it to take information from Ohio Revised Code, which is referenced throughout our negotiated agreements. And I even took it a step further and uploaded our entire bank of local board policies. And I asked the chatbot to only get answers from those resources. And so again, went through a testing phase, made sure the information was accurate, made sure it was only pulling from those documents. I also asked it to make sure that if they couldn't find an answer to something that someone asked, that they didn't just make one, that it didn't just make one up, that it would say, I cannot find the information that you are asking me. And I actually did that for the benefits guide one as well. So this particular GPT that we created is we only give that access to administrators. And there's a way that you can kind of control access for these that you create. And so that way, if I have a principal who has a quick question about, hey, like how much sick leave does someone get if before they have to turn in a doctor's note? Or what is the process of someone asking for military leave? Or what does our contract say about a disciplinary issue and the steps to that? Instead of them calling me first, if they just want a quick answer or a quick reference, they can simply type that question into the chat bot, and then it gives them a quick answer. So this has really saved our principals, especially a ton of time, as they're navigating different contracts and sometimes it's easy to get them mixed up. We also just had negotiations, and so there were things in the contract that changed. And so, sometimes they're needing answers that maybe they were confident in before that they don't have. And so they're able to simply just ask those questions instead of having to wait on a response or instead of having to sift through an entire negotiated agreement on their own. The only other thing that I do want to mention that is so important is that we made sure to add a disclaimer for both of these resources that pops up before any answer is given. And we had our attorneys write that disclaimer that basically says this is just meant to be an informational tool. It is not meant to be an interpretation of law or contract language. It is not binding. The answers are just simply there as a tool. And then if you need additional information or support, please reach out to HR, and then we put our names in there. And so you could ask 50 questions, but every single time you ask a question, it will pop up with a disclaimer just so that we don't have liability issues, just in case the information is either inaccurate, outdated, or it accidentally pulls it from somewhere, just because we might have some trust issues with the programming that I did on my own because I was new to that. So the disclaimer piece is super important, and just a great reminder to both our staff members who are looking up benefits information, but also our administrators that, hey, this is just meant to be a general tool, and very specific scenarios or circumstances should always be, fact checked to make sure that it's accurate. So that's kind of the process that we've used, and two of them that we've created that I think has really helped with efficiency in both our department, but also in our staff members getting the answers that they need quickly. And we do have a lot of people that use these. So if I can do it, you can do it. Again, not a super techie person. It was very simple, and the product itself walked me right through how to create a bank of information for our staff. So, Alexis, do you have any questions about that?
That was a lot of very, very useful information. At this time, I do not have any questions.
Okay, well, if people do have questions, I would say reach out to me, but it's actually easier to just type your question right into ChatGPT and it will answer it for you. It tells you everything you need to know about how to create one of these resources. And I encourage people to start with the problem and make this the solution, right? So, what is something that you have as that could make your department more efficient or that could make information more accessible? This might be a great answer to that problem. So,
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Jocelyn, for sharing your insights and promising practices with our members. We invite you to join us next month and every first Wednesday of the month for our Promising Practices podcast series, where we will explore best practices for your district.